Hello everyone, welcome back to our class. Group dynamics we are discussing, under which problems or difficulties of informal groups we'll discuss now. The working of informal groups produce functional and dysfunctional aspects. The functional aspects benefits both its members and organizations as a whole, but the dysfunction aspects create difficulty in the functioning of the organization. These may create a few problems to organizations. We'll see those problems what are created by informal groups. One is resistance to change. Most dynamic organization wants change in a work method and routine, but informal groups have a tendency to resist change. Okay, change is inevitable by the organization because of its betterment. But the workers who are working for that organization may not, okay, in a position to invite the change. Generally, they resist change. The tendency of human being is resist the change. Because whenever a new change is produced, then employees may have to make new adjustments and acquire new skills, but groups want to maintain status quo. Okay, how they are farming, that has to be continued. They don't want to accept the new technology. Okay, hence they resist. This creates obstruction in implementing new ideas for organization survival. Okay, the tendency of resisting the changes creates obstruction in implementing new ideas for organizational survival. Okay, and growth in the changing environment. Right, growth in the changing environment. Often group resists change because they are bound by conventions. Okay, often group resists change. Why? Because they are bound by conventions. They are bound by customs. They are bound by their culture. That's why they don't want to move away from the boundaries. And an individual member cannot resist the change. An individual member, okay, the person who is working for the organization, no, I don't want to get acclimatized with the new technology introduced. Okay, I will walk out. No, that will not happen, because if one person resists, he may be terminated from the job. That's why, but group, all members strongly resist the change. Okay, individual member cannot do that. Okay, cannot resist change, but as a group, all the members strongly resist the change. And second problem is role conflicts. Organizations are organizations interests are likely to suffer in case of conflicts between formal and informal roles. Every member of the group is also a member of the formal organization. Since informal groups try to meet the social needs of their members, there is a natural tendency to produce role conflict, because what the informal group requires of a member may be just opposite of what is expected of him by the formal organization. In such a situation, group members may conform to their social norms. Such a conflict may be dysfunctional from organization's point of view. Right. However, much of the role conflict can be avoided by careful cultivating and integrating formal interests with informal interests. The more the interests, goals, methods, and evaluation system of formal and informal organizations can be integrated, the more productivity and satisfaction can be expected from them. Next, rumors. Rumor is a phenomenon of informal communication. Okay, rumor is a phenomenon of informal communication which supplements the transmission of information through formal communication. This is not desirable from organization's point of view, because rumor deals with temporary events in a way that implies that what is said is true, even though there is not much information to support it. The basic reason for the circulation of rumors is ambiguous circumstances and relieving of emotional tensions felt by people in those ambiguous situations. Since most of the time rumors carry false information, they become detrimental to the organizational functions. To best course of action to deal with the rumors is the identification of the service and cause. Getting at okay, getting at cause is wise use of the preventive approach rather than a tardy curative approach. When people feel secure and understand the feelings that matter to them, there are few rumors because there is very little ambiguity in the situation. Right, and we'll move to another problem, that is conformity. The informal groups exert strong pressure on its members for conformity. The members may become so loyal to their group that following the group norms become a part of their life. Accordingly, they hardly realize the powerful pressures which it exerts to get them to conform to its code of conduct. The conformity informal groups implies that members become subject to willful control of an informal leader who may manipulate the group towards selfish or undesirable ends. This will lead to dilution of the effect of organizational policies and practices on the group members. Right? Now we'll see the dynamics of group formation. Okay, the dynamics of group formation. Okay, theories of group formation. Propinquity theory. The most basic theory explains affiliation is propinquity. This interesting word simply means that individuals affiliate with one another because of office, spatial or geographical proximity. In an organization, employees who work in the same area of the plant or office or managers with officers close to one another would more probably form into groups than those who are not physically located together. There is some research evidence to support the propinquity theory, and on the surface, it has a great deal of merit for explaining the group formation. The drawback of this theory is that it is not analytical and does not begin to explain some of the complexities of group information. Some more theoretical and practical reasons need to be explored. The second one is Homans theory. According to George C. Homans, the more activities persons share, the more numerous will be their interactions and the stronger will be their shared activities and sentiments. And the more sentiments people have for one another, the more will be their shared activities and interactions. It is a very comprehensive theory and based on activities, interactions, and sentiments. These three elements are directly related to each other. The members of a group share activities and interact with one another not just because of physical proximity, but also to accomplish group goals and the key element is interaction, because of which they develop common sentiments for the one group. These sentiments gradually get expressed through the formation of informal groups. If any disturbance is caused to any of the three activities, interactions and sentiments, it is likely to disturb all others. Their relationship are will see understand in a uh, triangle manner. Activities, okay, sentiments and interactions are at the three corners of the triangle. Okay, the interdependency activities, interactions, and sentiments will be the triangle. Okay, arrows will show. Now we'll discuss balance theory. Another very comprehensive theory is balance theory. Okay, another very uh, comprehensive theory is balance theory. Theory of group formation. This theory, as proposed by Theodore Newcomb, states that persons are attached to one another on the basis of similar attitudes towards commonly relevant objects and goals. Once a relationship is formed, it strives to maintain a symmetrical balance between the attraction and the common attitudes. If a if an imbalance occurs, attempts are made to restore the balance. If the balance cannot be restored, the relationship dissolves. Right? Thus, the balance theory is additive in nature, in the sense that it is introduced as the factors of balance to the propinquity and interaction factors. There must be a balance in the relationship between the group members, for the group to be formed and for its survival. The following figure, okay, shows balance theory. Individual will interact and form of relationship groups provide. Because of common attitudes and values, one, this relationship is formed. The participative strive to maintain a systematic balance between the attraction and the common attitudes. If a imbalance occurs, an attempt is made to restore the balance. If the balance cannot restore, the relationship dissolves. As we have discussed earlier, individual, okay, if A and B are two individuals, they are working on the same goal, and C is another. These three people group share values, common attitude and values. We are drawing the same in a graph form. Okay, A, B, C in a triangle form are arranged, and B is in align with A, and A is in align with B, and A, B are reporting to C. Lifestyle, work, authority, religion, politics, etc. they are sharing. A balanced theory of group formation, this is one example. When B to A to B, you have a two arrows. Okay, but whereas from A to A and B to C, only the arrow is moving, that is the flow of information from A and B to C only we will find. Right? Another theory is exchange theory. This theory is based on reward cost outcomes of interactions. To be attracted towards a group, a person, think in terms of what he will get in exchange of interaction with group members. A minimum positive level rewards greater than the costs of an outcome must exist in order for attraction of affiliation to take place. Rewards from interactions gratify needs, while consists incur anxiety, frustrations, embarrassment or fatigue. Propinquity, interaction, and common attitude all have a role in the exchange theory. Now we will discuss the practical reasons for group formation. Besides the theoretical explanation for group formation and development, there are some very practical reasons for joining and or for forming a group. Some important reasons are explained here under. Okay, we'll see each and every group in detail. Okay, reasons for group formation. From members' point of view, first we will see. One is companionship. What is companionship? The need for relationship with other people is one of the strongest and most constant of human drives. Relationships give an individual who earlier left lonely and miserable recognition and his work like pleasant and comfortable. Many research studies have indicated that the employees who have no opportunity for social contacts find their work unsatisfying, and this lack of satisfaction often reflect itself in low productivity and high rate of absenteeism and turnover. Then another one is identity. Okay, identity is the reason for group formation under a member's point of view. We try to understand ourselves through the behavior of others towards us. If others praise us, we feel we are great. Okay. Groups provide many others who will laugh, praise or admire us. Right? Group provide many others. In that group members, some laugh, some praise, some admire us, right? Workers get more identified in small groups, and so small groups tend to enjoy high morale as compared to large groups, right? This is another thing. And another reason is information. The informal group to which a member belongs is a source of communication or information to him. A piece of information available to one member will nearly reach all the members in a short span of time. An individual comes to know about what is happening in an organization, even if he has been on leave or is otherwise away. The group may develop a special code or language for speedy communication. The group help reduce many psychological barriers to communication. Sometimes the group will amplify, and interpret the news once it is related, means it is released. Thus, each person gets a large, more detailed and meaningful, but at times a distorted and erroneous picture of what is going on in the organization will be seen. Another reason is security. People, perhaps the strongest reason for group formation is the people's need for security. By joining a group, a person can reduce his insecurity. He feels stronger, has lesser self doubts, and is more resistant to threats. A person always drives measures from interacting with others and being part of group. The group protects its members from the arbitrary policies and orders of the formal organization, and provides a psychological buffer between the individual and the organization. This often explains the concept of unions. Another reason is esteem. Membership is a prestigious group in a source of enhanced self-esteem. The members will feel good about themselves by virtue of group's power, prestige, and social standing. They will get opportunity for recognition and praise that are not available outside the group. Right? Another reason is that sense of belongingness. Okay, sense of belongingness. It is an emotional need for friendship, love, affection, and affiliation. Most people have strong need for being with others who can understand, support, and help them when they are in need, and render them moral and emotional support in time of difficulty. The concept of family and friends fulfills this need. When people are new to an organization, they are eager to find friends with which they can check their perception of new and uncertain environment. Right? Next problem is outlet for frustrations. An individual may be faced with several problems relating to his family, life, and work life. At times, he feels tremendous stress in life and gets frustrated. If he shares his feelings and anxieties with some members, his tension is released to a great extent. These social relations provide an important outlet for frustration. Informal groups serve as safety values and help release frustration, thus avoiding any mental or physical breakdowns of individual. Organizations which don't have informal groups sometimes rely on expensive systems of employee counseling in which consider okay, hire employers' problems and advise them accordingly. Okay, next, perpetuation of cultural values. Common cultural background brings people together and is a strong commenting force. People sharing a common culture are able to maintain their cultural identity and even propagate their culture. A group with a particular cultural value often takes up activities which help perpetuate these values. This even gives psychological satisfaction to members. Right? And next, generation of new ideas. Informal groups are a breeding ground for new ideas as they provide supportive environment in which the members can engage themselves in creative thinking. Quality circles in Japan are more important example in this regard. Under quality circles, workers meet periodically and discuss problems relating to quality and come out with a new idea to solve the problem. And another reason is self-evaluation. Groups help the members in evaluating themselves as against others by employing any yardstick. An individual can judge himself against other members of the group. They will help him in having a realistic self-assessment and encouraging him to acquire the plus point of others or inculcating a competitive spirit. The group also provides acceptable ways of compensating for an individual's deficiencies. And another reason is job satisfaction. Many jobs which appear superficially, dull, and routine are made interesting by groups, and spontaneity is encouraged and protected by the group. Certain jobs can be done by isolated workers, but working as a group often results in higher motivation to the workers. Right? And lastly, we have another reason is power. Members of group offers power to members in the least two ways. There are sayings such as united we stand, divide we fall. Right? There are sayings such as united we stand, divide, we fall. And unity is strength. Workers enjoy much great power collectively than they do as individuals. Okay. And second is leadership of a group enables an individual to exercise power over group members even if he does not enjoy a formal position of the authority in the organization. That's it. Okay. And next we'll see some practical reasons for group formation. Okay. From an organization point of view, we'll see what would be the reasons, right? Informal group satisfies some of the social and psychological needs of its members on the one hand, and on the other hand, it can also prove useful from the organization's point of view. In fact, the findings of many social researchers suggest that formal groups are essentially for the organizational stability. Such a group can prove useful in the different ways. One is lightening of responsibility. Okay, a cooperative group can be entrusted with some responsibility, which will lighten the manager's mental become uh, burden to some extent. And filling the gaps, an enlightened group can also fill in gaps in management's abilities. Sometimes a subordinate who has knowledge in an area can help the superior who does not have adequate grasp over the problem. And another is restrain the authority. A group also helps to keep checks and balances on the manager's excessive use of authority. A manager is not allowed to cross his limits or bounds, and proper and careful planning. A manager will be very careful in planning and other job jobs for the fear of presence of the group. And another is information. Group acts as a medium of information for the management, a set of information which the management is reluctant to express in writing can be conveyed to the members through the informal communication channels of the group. On the other hand, it conveys to the management also what is in the mind of the employees. This information will help in avoiding resistance to change and aid in implementation of decisions. And another is potential formal managers. Right? An organization can easily recruit formal managers from among informal leaders. Formal group provides a reservoir to the management for future managers Since jobs in organizations are becoming more complex and interdependent, the use of group in performing task functions will become increasingly important. This is why the above mentioned list of functions is not comprehensive. These functions, whether from the member's point of view or from the organization point of view, make the role of informal groups complementary to formal groups. Both complement and supplement each other. Okay. Right. With this, we conclude the topic, and in the next class, we'll discuss Okay, factors affecting the group.